It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3, DoubleTSportsNetwork.com, and the Double T 97.3 mobile app, which is brought to you by our friends at Happy State Bank. You can take us anywhere with the app. If you would like to watch us, you can do so on Fox 34 News Now, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Gus, obviously you had Texas Tech Media Day today, and we have all of the interviews that we had live. We have them recorded up on DoubleTSportsNetwork.com and also on YouTube. You can go check those out. Also some behind-the-scenes short videos and things like that. A chance to see some of the personality of these players. Like, for instance, Skylar Gill-Howard was on with the end of the bench. He was fantastic, very entertaining. Certainly encourage you to go check that out. But a chance to also to hear from the coaches in depth, like a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. Of course, starting it off with the State of the Union address for head coach Joey McGuire. What, before we get some thoughts and stuff, what stood out to you from hearing from the coaches and players? Anything really jump out at you?
And it looks like it's a comment we'll talk about later, but when he was running through some of the defensive depth that you and I have talked about, it was it was pretty. It was pretty to listen to. When you think about guys who have started around here that are part of the depth, picture, and not just, man, we're counting on that guy. There's our one guy. Mm-hmm. Names like Dylan Spencer, who would have started last year but tore his ACL, now back. But, yeah, he's part of one of a unit of 5 or 6 really good defensive ends. Just that kind of stuff, just hearing about those kind of names and all of that in the wake of yesterday's Shrine Bowl thing, where there's 24 NFL scoutable types on this team.
Yeah, when he was talking about, because we know that you're excited about the high-end talent for the defensive line, but when he was talking about what you're talking about, and you start going over all of the guys that weren't just playing major minutes for you, but were picking up valuable starts as young guys, and now those are your 2s and 3s. And I know, obviously, the defense was not good last year, and so some might roll their eyes at those starts, but you had some pretty valuable ones in there, like a Jaden Cofield, who, as a very young player, picked up some important minutes and had some moments where he shined. Well, all of a sudden, he gets to reset a little bit and go back into that young player mode while also being asked to produce at times behind Lee Hunter and Gil Howard and A.J. Holmes, which is huge. And like you said, like Charles Esters is on that list as far as guys who started and played major minutes and at times looked really good. Obviously some injuries there when you get to the outside linebacker discussion, but you piece all of that together and it's not just the front end players that you're excited, because you don't just win. If you do win a Big 12 championship, you don't win a Big 12 championship with just front-end guys. There has to be depth somewhere.
Right.
And I think the defensive line might be your deepest spot. Yep. The receivers will be in that conversation, I think, when we look back. But I think that's one of my favorite parts about the defensive line is it's not just these high-end veterans that you have, but there shouldn't be, when you have to call upon the 2s or 3s or give Lee Hunter a break or, David Bailey a series or something like that, it's not just going to be just a huge drop-off. Now there's just this massive hole over there on that side of the offensive line because we can just push around whoever. That's at least what it appears as it is now.
I couldn't agree more. And I think about a phrase that was used several times today, the iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
I remember when I played baseball in the late 80s thinking about what an advantage it must have been for the Longhorns were loaded back in those days. Again, this is 1980s baseball we're talking about. They always had some of the best arms in the conference. But I always remember thinking about the best arms getting the hitters all of them getting to work against each other in all of their inner squads, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those guys got to hit off Kirk Dressendorfer in an inner squad once a week or whatever it was. Who else you gonna throw at them that was gonna match that? And we heard that same thing from guys, players, and coaches today. Talk about dealing with David Bailey. I got to deal with that guy.
Yeah,
I got to block that guy. Who you throwing at me?
John Carlos Miller. That was like one of the first names he threw out there.
Who you throwing at me that I'm gonna have to go? Man, David Bailey didn't get me ready for this. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like that's. I think that's a tremendous advantage. I mean, obviously we need health and that sort of thing, but those dudes working against each other, get to game day and go, you know how it is. You get in. You get, for me, it was first at bat. You guys, you get a couple of series in, and you're going, oh, okay, this will be good. You know, that isn't what I've been dealing with all the time.
So something that I'm glad that this question got asked, speaking of things that stood out, is, you go out and you get guys like that, right? You add all of this high-end talent through the portal and this big class. And someone asked, and this was a question in the offseason too, hey, would you go after, when Carson Beck goes into the portal, would you go after him for a quarterback? And then you have Nico Yamalevo. You have some big names, and there are also some lesser-known names like a John Mateer, who you saw that goes to Oklahoma. Like, would you go after him? And in the end, the coaching staff feels confident about Behren Morton. Coach McGuire talked about that, and he was asked, why stick with Morton?
Well, we're really lucky to have some great relationships with some NFL scouts, and we talked to 6 guys, and I mean, the praise that they had on his arm talent and what he can do, and so I think that was a big part of it. I also think he kind of embodies everything of how tough he is, how much he loves this place. You want that guy to lead you. And so I felt really good about everything that the doctors were talking about with his shoulder. I mean, at the end of the day, I was sitting there going, at the very worst, his shoulder is going to be where it was last year. And, he had a lot of good moments in the season, and I think being even a year older and how much experience he has is only going to be better.
Yeah. Behren Morton is more than talented enough, especially this team, to lead you to a Big 12 championship. And obviously, we're all rooting for Behren Morton because he's your quarterback, but I do think there's also something too that he has wanted to win as a Red Raider for so much of his life. It makes me root for him even more,
right?
And so I think the point that he said was, even if you got just last year, I think, again, going back to the defense and with some of the weapons, stuff like that, I think that's good enough to have you in Arlington. But hopefully you're getting more than that. And, he said, hey, this is the healthiest he's been since he was an incoming freshman. You worked with one of the top sports surgeons in the world. I don't have, an ounce of doubt that he isn't healthy, but I'm very curious to see if with this offense, is this kind of a let it rip Morton that we saw against Oklahoma State and West Virginia, or what's the approach like?
Yeah, hopefully there's enough diversity in the weapons that you didn't have to throw it 72 times to beat somebody. But yeah, I'm excited by the people through that Manning camp process that say he looked pretty good.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
You got us on Double T 97.3, DoubleTSportsNetwork.com, and don't forget about the mobile app, which is brought to you by our friends at Happy State Bank. I'm Clint Scott. He's Dr. Mike Gustafson. Across the way, taking care of us, Brennan Riker. You will hear his voice if you call up the Visual Edge IT hotline, 806-771-0973. If you call that number, he will give you a full rendition of our Colts Guy song. I'm very excited about the return of him this season. I'm sure he will give anthems aplenty.
Yeah,
I know old Razzle Dazzle's pumped.
You said he was singing this weekend.
This is our Colts. This is
Right?
our team.
You sent us a clip of him singing this weekend.
He did a cover of what was it? Oh, it was Tarzan. He was doing a Phil Collins song. That's
Goodness.
right. I forgot about that. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. With the talent that we have, 8-4 is my floor. Anything less than 8 wins will be a huge disappointment. If we don't win the conference, it'll be a huge disappointment.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird because if you are 10-2, right? That's well above everyone's floor. That's about, hey, you got to that double-digit win. You don't have that total just running around a bunch here, right? And I'm putting myself in that position going, boy, it's going to be hard to be like truly disappointed with 10-2. But if it's also paired with, hey, it's the 10-2 and there were 2 other 10-2s in the conference and they're in Arlington and you're not because of tiebreakers, well, I'm certainly going to be disappointed because you were right there, right?
Absolutely.
If you get to Arlington and you lose, I'll be really disappointed. So it's hard not to agree, right?
Yeah, I don't.
And that can still be.
I agree.
That can still be the word disappointed with a successful season, right? Like taking care of and reaching some of the goals that this team was capable of, right? It's a whole different kind of disappointment than like the 8-4 floor talk. If you hit there, right?
Yeah. It's like. Just anytime you get to, it's like the national championship, losing basketball the way we did. Like there's a different kind of pain associated with it. You can step back and go, hey, one of the top 2 teams in the country, it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. But mercy, we were so close. That's a different kind of disappointment. Ultimately, you're not the national champion like the other 300 Division I teams. But just to be that close,
Yeah, sure.
It'll always be a special team around here. Maybe not once we've won a bunch of national championships in men's basketball, but it'd be the scenario you're painting is kind of that we're getting to the cusp. We got to get to Arlington, man. We got to get to Arlington with this team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that. I can't imagine that all the things that land right in terms of a talent advantage and some of the things that we've never had before. Oh, and it aligns with the senior quarterback and depth and a lot of different things. All the reasons are there.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line: 8-4 ain't sniffing a conference title, brother.
Nope.
No, it is not. And that's just, we asked for people to give us their floors. What is the lowest total that they think could happen this year? This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Hearing all these lists, does it seem like folks are sleeping on Bailey? I did think that was interesting on some of these preseason watch lists like we just had for Lee Hunter and Jacob Rodriguez, that it's hard for me to say that he's being overlooked or anything like that because he was such a big story out of the portal and really dominated portal headlines for like 2 weeks. Granted, there's kind of a dead period, and when he enters the transfer portal, right, it's from a weird situation where his coach gets let go well into the spring. But at the same time, I think he would have been talked about in a similar fashion had he entered the transfer portal in early January, or if that decision by Stanford had been made a little bit earlier where there were still other big names in the portal. But you also see, he's a big reason why you're in like top 5 PFF grades for a defensive line and all this stuff. So it's like, I don't think he's being slept on, but I did think it was interesting as of yet that he's not on a preseason watch list.
That's true. Coach McGuire talked about that, taking that he took other guys to Frisco because it felt like they'd been overshadowed.
He
by
specifically took Romello Height,
right?
Because he didn't think he was being talked about.
He
enough.
talked about that, and I'm thinking, well, I don't think we've met Bailey yet.
Yeah,
but I get it. I think he's Bailey's a little more of a mystery, not in terms of his talent and all the things, but he's a little bit of a mystery because he got here little later than the others to get to participate at the very end of spring football, and everyone I think is pretty impressed by him.
Yeah,
for all the right reasons. But yeah, we just haven't we haven't seen him trekked out in front of the media just yet. His time will come. We know that. If
I said give me right here, popcorn style off the top of your head, the 3 players you're most excited to watch individually for the Red Raiders, who are they?
That's probably him. He's on the list. I want to see him go wreck some quarterbacks and blow up some running plays and do all the things. It might be both edge rushers. I don't know. I won't bore you with that. I'll go Bailey. I'll go.
Or you can bore us if that's what the answer is.
I know.
I've got 2 on the defensive front.
All of my eyeballs are over there on the defensive side, I think, because I feel like the offense is going to take care of itself. I mean, it's hard to know about Sampson, right? I mean, we're going to sit there and watch him. Right. No sacks again. Great job, but like, I'd love to see. That's more of a unit question than it is just him. But
yeah.
I'm interested in seeing Wisniewski and probably our corner.
My 3: David Bailey, Lee Hunter, which is funny because we talked about both of them, and then Quentin Joyner is on on that list.
Oh, I'm ready for Pollock Island over there.
Oh man,
just take that guy, and he's not catching anything today.
I hope we do get the legitimate Pollock Island.
I'm in.
I'm also in. Where do I sign up? Do you have the sheet over there?
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3, halfway home as we go up to 6 o'clock. You can hear Rangers and Angels 8 o'clock tonight here in Double T 97.3. As the Rangers look to bounce back after the Angels took the first game of the series 6-4. The Astros, they're trying to halt a now 5-game losing skid after dropping yesterday's series opener with the Nationals 2-1. You can hear them in their game 2 at 6:40, 100.7 the score. We talked a little bit about the defensive line. We talked a little bit about Coach McGuire talking about the defensive line, but now seems like a good time to actually let you hear what he had to say from his own mouth. This were his thoughts on how this defense compares to maybe what he wanted in year 1 taking over the program.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of different things from him, from the standpoint of 3 down, 4 down. I think he's going to be the first one to tell you the edge pressure between David Bailey and Romello Height. Like, David Bailey is getting all this hype. Like, and I took Romello Height to media day for a reason, and that was nobody's talking about him. And I watched 15 practices of one of the best guys I've seen. Is like his first step, and he's played a lot of football. He's really talented. And so I think, Shield's going to be able to get after people up front, rushing forward, but also we've got some linebackers. Jacob Rodriguez has got a knack for getting to the quarterback and pressuring the quarterback. So I think you're going to see different things like that. And then we really upgraded the secondary with the guys that we brought in, and then the growth of like B.J. Jordan, Marion Horn, just guys that are now older and have played a lot of football.
He also mentioned along the same lines, would go on to talk about the depth specifically at the defensive line.
I see it every day. I'm ready to see it against somebody else. But when you're sitting there and you think, all right, it knows you've got Lee Hunter. I think he led the Big 12 in pressures last year in the defensive line. But you got Lee Hunter, and then behind him you got Jaden Cofield, who started multiple games last year's for us like there. We're going to work Duda in 2 spots, so we're going to work him at the boundary defensive tackle, but we're also going to work him at nose. You got a guy right there that was starting for us before he got hurt in the Baylor game. You turn around, you've got Skylar Gill-Howard, who started last year, who had a high pressure rate, and I think he had 5 sacks. You got A.J. Holmes, who started last year for Houston, that's in that rotation, and then you got Duda over there with that. You got Amir Washington, who's also in that rotation, who started for us last year. Then you go and you got David Bailey, who started last year, Braylon Rigsby, who's behind him, Charles Esters, who's behind him, who started for us last year, who played the year before that. Then you got Braylon Rigsby behind him, who started at different times for us last year. You go over to Boundary, you got Romello Height, who started last year, and then you got Terrell Tillman, who had 4 sacks at the end of the year last year. And then you add Chetta, and then, by the way, Dylan Spencer's fully back from his injury last year. So you're sitting there, and, man, I probably missed somebody. Like, literally, you're
I think this is where, man, the biggest we throw the word expectation around a lot, and we have, and for good reason. We've talked about it plenty today. I think, again, this goes into why you are seeing so much of that, especially when you look at what you're expecting to be a massive turnaround from last year's defense to this year's defense. He mentioned the secondary, and I think that will be improved on its own. But when you look at the capability of Gus, one, again, your front-end guys, your starting 4 there on that defensive front, and maybe just sending 3 at times too. He talked about, one of the best teams that he's been a part of was 2019 Baylor, and how many sacks they got without having to blitz. Last year, if you hit home, you had to blitz.
Yes.
Even with you had like some of your best guys that might be able to win some one-on-one battles. I mean, when they got tired and you didn't have anybody else behind them, anything you might have seen, like in the first half against TCU, I think about that game, that pressure just gets washed away to nothing. And then you talk about guys that got hurt that you were hoping, like Dylan Spencer, to provide some pressure that you never really got to see at all. You mix all that together, and those are the guys that are your second wave. The expectations of like you should be able to throw able bodies at offensive lines consistently, and it doesn't mean, like you said, like Shieldwood won't send a linebacker now and then, but the goal is to cause havoc without having to do that and go, man, I've got a couple guys in my face, and I look back there, oh, and by the way,
right,
there's still 7 guys in coverage.
Right. There's safeties over top of people. There's maybe double coverage. Yeah, just all the things. And it's just a luxury we haven't had around here in a while. We had it with Tyree Wilson, and that team could get after the quarterback, and it was probably the best defense that we've had around here in Coach McGuire's time. And it feels like we are. I don't know if there's a single Tyree Wilson on this roster. I don't know that there's eighth. What was he? Seventh, eighth? Yeah. Overall pick in this group. But I think there's, as we know, there's several NFL grade type guys. So what does that look like? I don't know. But yeah, to be able to get after people with 3 and 4 man rushes, those things work hand in hand, right? And you go, hey, we're going to drop and play coverage here, and still get after the quarterback, as opposed to just drop and play coverage and, try to give – and a quarterback in the past would have all day.
Well, and you think of, like, some of the things that you've had to do when you've had bad offensive line play, and you're hoping to do this against good offensive lines, right, where sometimes with your offense you've had to keep him. You go, why aren't we using the tight end? It's like, well, you're having to chip with them, or sometimes just have them back and help pass block. Or why aren't we using our running back? Well, you're really having to have them in and have 6 bodies blocking because you can't handle their 4-man rush. Like, if you can do that against solid units, this is where I also think it's important that you hit on this, because this is where you've put a lot of chips as far as this is the unit that is the first step forward to giving the thought of, hey, you can buy into the thoughts of a Big 12 championship, maybe, finding yourself into a playoff. If they don't live up to the expectations, it's hard to imagine the team as a whole would live up to expectations.
Yeah, this is the unit that has changed the most, without a doubt.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Thank you for joining us on Double T 97.3. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker behind the glass taking care of us. Keep hitting us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. thoughts, comments, questions. Don't forget about Ask Tech Talk. Speaking of questions, we'll do that at 5:45. You can also call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline, 806-771-0973. If you call that number, Brennan will tell you if you should do a Dallas Cowboys version of the Colts Guy song. The answer will be yes. Go ahead and give you
I'll do it.
answer. You'll do it? Would you? Would you do that every week? That would be awesome.
Perhaps. Will it be publicized anywhere? No. This would be for Tech Talk consumption only.
Consumption. Deal. In. Yeah. We are live from the First United Bank
I need
studio.
to email that guy and get his bed, like the musical bed.
I can get it for you.
Okay.
I'll get it.
Thank you.
I will do the legwork for that if you do this.
I'm already regretting this, but you know what? We're in.
Dude, we got studio lighting in here, man. We can put some production on this. Brennan Riker, now the Cowboys guy.
Do I have to shave my head?
It's up to you.
I'm keeping the hair.
Okay. We just want the song. We are live from the First United Bank studio. You can watch us on Fox 34 News Now, YouTube, and Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, make sure to follow us over there. Just look up Double T 97.3. Let's get to a couple more Coach McGuire thoughts, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Somebody just, flat out asked him, again, to go back to the word expectations. Hey, what does this roster mean for wins? This was his answer.
Man, I'm going to tell you, this roster, I think it came out yesterday. We have as many or the most that the East-West Shrine game is looking at. Every NFL report that we get has a lot of guys that are rated as NFL prospects. And then it's an old team, I think we have 15. I could be totally wrong. It might be somewhere between 13 and 15 outside linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackles that have played and started college football games. Same way in the offensive line. I think there's 8 or 9 offensive linemen that have played, in college football games. And then a maturity, man. We've got like Bryce Ramirez just got married this weekend, but like Cole is married. Jacob Rodriguez is married. Will Jados got married earlier in this summer. We've got grown men in this building that they have some high expectations for themselves. They know what it's going to take for them to have a good year this year and set themselves up for the future. And so when you have a really mature team like that and pulling in the same direction, you got a great opportunity.
That's such a big deal. The last thing he's talking about, not so much those guys being married, but just older roster like that, and because they're going to have to come together and buy in and do some things like that, and should be able to do so around a decent early start. I would assume
It's
3 wins in the first 3 home games, and then
it better be.
Yeah, and then just to buy into the excitement and each other and all that, and I think that's one of the things Coach McGuire does really well. So I'm, I just, because this isn't just a really, really talented young team. This is a really, really talented bunch of dudes that are all in their last year or two. I shouldn't say all. I'm saying every talented guy is near the very end, because we know about some of the incoming, Ojo and those guys not going to be here this fall. But that, I'm not saying this is the end of it, but this is such an older club, and a bunch of these dudes have stuff to play for. The NFL side of it, yes, but also a bunch of these dudes that are coming in from the MAC or from 1AA or FCS, whatever you call it, that those guys have they're something different to play for, and I think it's the right alchemy, man.
Well, there are, to what you're saying, a ton of one-year guys or guys who might have eligibility but could only be here 1 year depending on the NFL draft, that, the chemistry side can still be difficult to get together when you have so many new faces, not to mention a couple new faces on the staff, right? At pretty important pieces of the staff when you look at your coordinators. That's easier said than done. Hey, everyone go out there and be a well-oiled machine. But when you put in that you have so many veteran players and veteran players that aren't just veterans because they happen to be a senior, but have played so many snaps and bring so many starts together to this roster. Like you expect those guys to be a little bit of plug and play, especially defensively when you talk into the front. Now, like secondary and coverage and all that stuff and terminology, things like that can be different. But with these veteran players, you expect them to get it a little quicker and then also show some of these young guys. Like something that Coach McGuire talked about is like Cheto Ofili. Anytime you see David Bailey, you see Cheto Ofili. And I think that's awesome because that's something else that's beneficial for these guys that are here that will be like your core moving forward, that they're learning from these guys too. And the other thing, when you look at individual players, especially ones that are only going to be here 1 year and they know they're only going to be 1 year, there's not like a wrong way to do it if it works out. But you can have the guy that's here a year and is everyone's favorite Red Raider and he comes back all the time and he's at games and, you've seen that across different sports, right? Guys that were here and really like area-wise left an impact. But you can also have guys that show up for a year and feel completely contractual, but they perform well because it's mutually beneficial for them to perform well for themselves and for you. And that's fine too. I'm sure we'll look back after this year and you'll be able to filter like who was who, if you understand like what I'm, describing. But at the same time, as long as it works, it doesn't matter where these players line up for those 1 year guys.
No, that's exactly right. Can't wait to see them get started and can't wait to see them get tested. It's going to be fun around here this fall.
And by the way, also being that like the contractual feel, you still have to be bought in to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll find out at the end of August. It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Ask Tech Talk is brought to you by Visual Edge IT. Give us your questions on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker behind the glass, taking care of us. Thank you for joining us for a Mon Tuesday edition. A Mon Tuesday edition is what just came out. A Tuesday edition, Rangers and Angels.
We try that again.
Yep, Rangers and Angels game 2, 8 o'clock tonight, right here in Double T 97.3. Astros and Nationals game 2, 640, 100.7 the score. This on the chat line asks Tech Talk, what is your toughest game this season?
Oof. I mean, it'd have to be one of the road games.
Yeah. Part of that, you have. I'm with you. I think it's clearly in between at Utah, or for me anyways, at Utah, at Arizona State, and at Kansas State. That doesn't mean I don't think some of the other games aren't tricky, but then you start going, okay, if you look at those three, who do I think is the best team? And also, you have to do some environment question. I think Arizona State's the best team of the three, but for some reason, the one I feel the worst about, and maybe it's just your history with them, is the game in Manhattan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the one that's sitting here right now. I want to circle. You could probably count on that fan base being rabid.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know though. Whose quarterback's going down, and the season becomes they're 5-4 and not very excited about themselves as opposed to where we are right now. But yeah, as we sit here in late July, probably that's a big one because that feels like, I mean, again, without just sort of looking at predictions and being where we want to be and where we think they'll be. Mm-hmm. That game there on November 1st feels like it could have championship game implications.
What's interesting for Kansas State, just like looking at like not only what you're coming off of, but what are they coming off of? And that doesn't make them any better or worse, but it is interesting to me. I mean, they're coming off of the Sunflower Showdown, so
yeah. Hopefully they get into a shootout.
Either they're coming off of win number bajillion in a row against the Jayhawks, or coming off the first time they've lost in 17 years. I think that's just an interesting side note. I wonder, I haven't looked to see Arizona State's, and by the way, that's a really, for Kansas State, that's a tough stretch of like bookends, because October 4th, they're at Baylor. That's going to be a big game in the Big 12, right? Then they host TCU, and I don't think TCU is going to threaten for a Big 12 championship, but I think they're going to be a winning team in the conference, and I think they're going to be a tough out. They do have a break in between, but then they see Kansas, and then they see you. And as far as 4-game stretches, I don't think that's a cakewalk. It helps them that they have a bye in the middle of that, but still, I think that's a very interesting 4-game stretch. Let's see. Sun Devils. The Sun Devils, speaking of tough stretches, how about this? Their first Big 12 game, Gus, speaking of Baylor, at Baylor. That's a huge Big 12 game, right? And then they host TCU. And then they're at Utah. And then they host you. That's a brutal 4-game stretch to open Big 12, as it seems right now. I mean, we sat here
it is.
And have judged, that's an easy schedule or that's a hard schedule before. And we always walk away going, we kind of feel different about that. But for what it's worth, for what it seems right now, that is a tough first 4 games in conference play for the Sun Devils.
Yes, it is. And those. I mean, we've got. I mean, think about it. When we first saw, and I'm going back to going to Baylor's non-conference schedule. We talk about schedules and toughness and whatnot. Think about when they booked that SMU game. You think they were thinking, they'll be coming off a 12-1 or whatever they were, 12-2. You think that? You think they were coming off a ACC championship? I mean, when you booked SMU 5 years ago, we'll do a little home and home. Mm-hmm. You know, you guys will be in the ACC then, right?
Yeah, that's a solid American matchup, right? Like that, as far as group of fives go, if you're scheduling that 5 years ago, you're going, that's a good test, right? But also going, that's also a group of 5 school. Now it's like, ACC champ, playoff appearance. For what it's worth, they also have a bye in between TCU and Utah. Anyway, that's a roundabout answer. I think in the end, I'll say Arizona State, because I think they're the better team of those 3. And I think the environment at Utah is going to be really good. I think the environment in Manhattan is going to be really good. But I also think the environment in Arizona State, like when they started picking up steam, that wasn't an easy place to go into.
Right, and I think that's the key. That's a place that can get they have a lot to do around there. It can get sort of Southern California-ish in terms of, why do we want to go to that game when we can go, we got the Suns home opener is that night, or the Cardinals have a game. I mean, like they can get into some of the other things that are going on around there, and it can really divide their attention. But Sun Devil football, after what they did last year, could soldier a lot of eyeballs out of a really big metropolitan area there in Phoenix.
And never sleep on the party school. Like if you, of all like the new ones who felt the most Big 12-ish from their crowd when it's really good, I think UCF's crowd and their environment is awesome. I think Arizona State's probably, BYU obviously is incredible too, but I think Arizona State's a little underrated from how they fit in with the Big 12.
Okay. That's fair.
I don't think I thought when I woke up I'd say never underestimate the party school, but I stand by it. That'll do it
we like to party. We like to party.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.